Gavin McAnally, we go again.
We do indeed, mate. We do indeed. I want to start this
Fuck's
podcast
sake.
by showing my appreciation for you showing up all those times over the two festivals because I tell you, Matt, there's a newfound respect and making it work because it's fucking madness at my end at the minute. Personally, with the whole family situation, my wife doing the extra hours of work and three kids, and then professionally, it's just all the shit's hitting the fan in every different direction just now. So, aye.
You're feeling it, are you?
I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. Listen, it's all good. There's lots of positives in me with the busyness as well. Just there's a lot happening at the same time. So, you coming on here looking nice and relaxed and saying, we go again. That works for me. That gets me back on track.
Good. So what have you been what's been keeping you busy?
So this weekend, the weekend just passed it, I was down in Manchester for a site visit with Paul, who's like the damnation sidekick for the last fucking 15 years. Bry, who's the graphic designer, and our latest recruit, Angela, who's helping out with the advancing this year. So we had a couple of nights at an Airbnb, got along to the venue, a lot of really basic stuff like just measuring out. We're getting some cabins hired in this year for like artist catering and for a different production office, which is going to be a lot more quiet than the current one. So we were just basically measuring out what space those cabins were. Because you can have, I mean, especially with you guys, you're looking at something like a field and saying, what the hell does that huge stage or tent look like in that field? For us,
Yeah.
even in an industrial state, like, what dimensions is that? I mean, it's almost impossible to tell by eye. So we had the chalk out and the measuring tape and and just getting down there for that. But like literally trying to come up with a site plan for this year to just try and improve in the bits that we've done before.
I was enjoying the video of you and Paul with the measuring tape out. It looks good. Made
Yeah,
me
I mean that's there's a quirk with Angela that we never quite realised that she was going to be fucking starting this because we're not cameras out type of people putting stuff on social media. Angela clearly is. So aye, that was I should give us a wee bit of warning beforehand. I can talk pure gibberish.
well, there's one video. I don't think it went out publicly that I was sent that didn't make a lot of sense. I didn't really know I wasn't sure what was going on. I think you were in a meeting, but maybe there were a few drinks in that meeting. I don't know.
Ah, fuck. Aye. Well, maybe. Aye. So that's aye. We'll need to get used to that. We'll maybe need to keep our game face on when Angela's around if she's fucking filming everything. So that was, and it's weird as well because I joke about that. I joke about that venue and the venue owner. They'd be like, they're very flexible and they're very good to work with, but you need to keep an eye on it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's always it's just that for a Big Ten hut, it seems to fucking change and morph every time you go there. So within 2 minutes of walking into like. There's two huge trailers, like your big art tangent trailers, just at the rear of the venue. Now that's where our tour buses are going to park. And they're saying to the venue, and they're like, what's happening with the trailers? Because well, they live there. And it's, well, I mean, well, that's very problematic because we need to get four tour buses powered in the back of them. These huge big trailers that are for his other events and festivals they do elsewhere. That's going to be a problem for us. She's like, oh really? Okay, we'll maybe look at getting them moved then. You're like, okay, well, good thing we came down and addressed that and didn't do it like 2 days out because
Yeah.
there's no front section, there's no vehicle to take them anywhere. There's just the rear section where all the storage is in, and then another 20 feet up the back of it, there's like 20 to 25 picnic tables. The seating is one of the biggest issues we have at Damnation, and getting seating hired in can be expensive. Because for the transportation costs more than anything else, because as soon as you put a lorry there, it's two, three, £400 goes into the bill straight away. So we're looking at like, do these belong to you? Yes. Can we use them? Yes. Okay. Like, right. So you found a
Result.
problem and a nice wee bonus in the space I've been there for 5 minutes, and that is very much the need of getting to Beck Arena. And then even like Cage Warriors was on when we were there, so you're walking in, it's like fucking the octagons in the middle of it, and it's all set in. The Star Wars bar is like a training room with the mats where they're all doing their warm ups and their jiu-jitsu, and it's just fucking mad. The venue's mad.
It's what? What's it called again?
Cage Warriors. So Cage Warriors like it's like a smaller promotion that feeds up into the UFC. So if you become like Conor McGregor was a Warriors champion, a double champ before he moved to the UFC. So
That's
they're hosting their events there. So there's an octagon in the middle of where our main stage is.
and presumably that's not random that as your wife realised this is why you chose that weekend to go away because you
I
like a
need
bit
to
of
be
the
careful here because
UFC, don't
Kelly
you?
started listening to the podcast. So there's a few times
Shit.
she's training for a half marathon. So She's listened to a few of the podcasts and she go in and I get a wee comment there, but it's a wee throwaway comment that I might have said that like it's fine, she'll never hear it. Like she will. But to be clear, I did not go to Cage War as much as I'd like to, and also was invited to by people that were there. We caned that night for advancing and also drinking alcohol, but mostly advancing, getting stuff out. I mean, it was only Brian and I that stayed back on the Sunday and absolutely hammered the design, all the AAA passes, the standard passes, the lanyards and laminates, the T-shirts. We've got Damnation clothing coming with windbreakers and joggies and shorts and new T-shirts. And aye, I mean, hopefully a football top kind of pinching that idea for your team. So,
Good.
aye, we get through so fucking much, didn't there? It was great. It's important as well because you do get wee bits where maybe some things have been lost in translation with production or who was doing what job, and just having four people around a table. I mean, I love work like I've always, when we started work from home in the pandemic, I hated it. Like the journalism side that I felt like I totally lost everything I loved about it. So there is an importance just to go down and have some human interaction and talk like, you know what I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
like
absolutely. So how do
friends and
you
colleagues.
what's your what's your sort of overriding feeling or emotion? Is it like excitement or fear or I don't know. I don't want to put words in your mouth. You got
But
6 weeks to go.
yeah, I mean, well, 5 weeks per time, I just over 5 weeks now. So I say, I don't know. How do you? Because you do feel that the stomach does tense, doesn't it? There's a
Mm.
tightening up. It's getting real. And we spoke in the previous pod about advancing, and at which point, well, you send out those information sheets. Now that's what happened to us just before we went down, and within 24 hours, we had so many random things that came back. I mean, we had an email for one of the smallest bands on over the weekend saying, "Oh, we were told we had hotels as part of our deal." You know what I mean? Like, I know I can tell you, I promise you, you don't have hotels part of your deal. Oh, our agent said. And you're like, well, your agent was wrong, and we can go back and because thankfully these are all done in black and white writing. You don't have it. It wasn't agreed. And you guys are you showing up in Manchester in 5 weeks' time, and you don't have somewhere to stay. Now that's an issue for all parties. But you better get it addressed now, not 5 weeks' time. So that's the first thing. Like, why? I mean, if God, we were providing hotel rooms for the 50 bands, you could be looking at our 10 grand plus on the budget. You know what I mean, the kind of thing it could fucking cripple a year like last year. So that was the first issue. Within minutes later, we had three separate bands requesting longer set times. Now we don't. You tend to get the odd band asking for 5 minutes here or there, but it tends to be a bit of common sense when you get it. I mean, out with the headliner, every band's kind of knows that they're going to be somewhere between that 30 and 50 mark. They're probably going to be. But a few of these bands were pushing back quite hard. They needed almost like a headline, so almost like an hour. So that's a wee bit strange and something we don't normally get. Do you get much of that? People pushing back when especially the smaller bands have got shorter slots?
No, I basically my rule is I check with the headliner how long they want to play for. And that apart from with Godspeed, who insisted on fucking 2 hours, um, I usually try not to go past 90 minutes. I think 90 minutes is plenty long enough for a festival set anyway. Trees, 75, 80 minutes is perfect for sort of a Don Braco type band. You don't need longer, I don't think. But I don't check with everyone else. And much like you, because of the way the Clash Finder jumps back and forwards between stages, there's very little way of sorting it out once you've sent the stage times out. Because to give someone else a longer set, you'd have to reduce a set on either that stage or another stage, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And it's just
What's
becomes pretty
changed for
impossible.
this year? We got so a couple of years ago, we never had any. There was no overlaps between the stages. So two stages would clash fully. The main stage no clash whatsoever. And the first year was quite busy. So then you've got that whole movement around the building as one issue, and the second issue is the set. Some of the sets were shorter than you'd like. I mean, some sets were pretty decent sized bands of 40 minutes. Like it'd be great if they had 45 or 50 minutes because they've got so much more in their arsenal, especially bands that've got like 7 or 8 albums. So last year we overlapped 5 minutes, 5 minutes. It's like, and then that just brought up all these new problems because you were getting bands that were starting their set, but maybe their biggest track and an album
Yeah.
set is the opening track. and the venue's half full for it because people are still milling through from to the other venues. And another thing I noticed when Nordic Giants were playing, and the quieter bits of Nordic Giants, and the third stage is starting up because it's 5 minutes overlapping it. You were starting to get bleed, which you don't really get at Damnation. So when you notice it, that like fuck, it's not like an outdoors festival where there's almost bleed for every angle, and you just need to tune into what you're watching. At Damnation, you could pretty much just hear what's in front of you. So there was two things I didn't like, and we got a lot of complaints for it, and we got a lot of complaints about the agents that are now saying to us, "Why is the set shorter?" Like, well, what one is it? There only is like 12 hours in a
Yeah.
day. Like, no, everyone can't have 60 minutes and then no overlaps. It's not possible.
To be honest, the number of people in the world that have planned a clash finder is very small, isn't it? And not even the agents have done it. I don't think anyone can quite appreciate when you change one thing to make it longer,
Yeah,
and you don't want to have
5 minutes can
overlaps. You
be.
cannot. It's really hard. So you're
Five
not
minutes
going
can
to
be.
change anything, are you?
So if there's one, there was a sort of album set one that we cut quite because what the bands don't want to do, they don't want to commit to a 48-minute album set, and you give them 50 minutes and they don't feel. And I get that. We want to cleverly we never sent out the clash finder. We just sent out every band their time. So the ones that are coming back, we could probably make small alterations with it. Ripping apart. Well, we will have to rip apart the clash finder, but not the one anyone's received.
Yeah,
So there is a bit of that where you're like, we probably could find you 5 minutes, or if the next changeover is going to be like a 45-minute, 50-minute changeover, and during that time, it's really quite basic. There's nothing, there's going to be another drum kit rolled on, and that's it. You'd be like, look, he's got an extra 3 minutes. So, like, no one's pulling the plug on your last track because you're going to go 3 minutes over. But let's try and keep to where, I mean, if you bash through it, let's try and keep to that. So, I mean, it'll be a wee bit of push and shove. But then we had one, we had one agent in Clinton Touch. He mixed up the stages. So, he's like, he came back and goes, whoa, how come it's at this time I thought we were, I thought, well, he pretty much thought his band was practically headlining the event. And again, we're not talking about a band that could have up with a 6,000 capacity. I mean, a band that might do 150 tickets regionally, you know what I mean? The agent thinks that they could possibly be co-headlining with
wow.
Cradle of Filth. So he got in touch and he was about like, well, we're up at the top end of the main stage. Look, it says here, and then on the writing capacity 2,500. Like, the main stage capacity isn't 2,500. That's Arena 2. So at the minute, we don't even know what's happening with that band. If they're going to push back, like, well, we want to go back. We're not going to go on the main stage then. Or we do want to go on the main stage. We don't want that. So, or whatever the situation is for that. So there's just stuff that's came out. I mean, just one of these things. As soon as you start advancing, the bands have got the information and now thinking about it. They're
Yeah.
like, oh, your main stage isn't 2,500, and we'll not go headlining with Cradle of Filth. Like, no, that was never agreed. It
Is
was
there
never a deal.
is there things you're worried about then that you're
I mean, the timings will deal with the timings. I mean, the bad news. I don't like giving. I don't like you go to these bands and you're looking forward to having them play. You're supportive of them. That's the reason you booked them. You've paid the money. In a lot of these cases, you get bands that are a grand, 1,500, 2 grand, 2.5 grand. In a cold-hearted business sense, they're not worth that money. Like, you couldn't put that band on Manchester and not lose money on a 2 grand fee. So,
yeah.
but in their heads, they're like 2 grand's barely covering our cost to get there. We feel like we're almost playing for free. Like, I get that as well, but it is a difficult market. The metal's a difficult market. Live music's just a difficult market. So so then you come back to them and saying, oh, by the way, you don't have hotels as well. Like, it's one of those ones where you could go to Twitter and be like, here's this festival, Europe's biggest and indoor metal festival, and they don't even provide the hotel rooms. And you get somebody like idealistic sort of hand up like, oh, this is a scumbag move. You're like, providing hotels for every band at Damnation could be the end of a Damnation. You know what I mean, it's like
Yeah.
we can't run a full taxi service, a full hotel service. Every band getting paid what we would love to pay them. That's just no, unless if you're all going to come and pay £120 a ticket and sell the place out. That's just not financially viable. And
No.
yeah, fucking Exhibit A is Damnation 2023.
So no one's doing an Arm and Ra and threatening
No,
to
not no,
ditch it and
no, not
see you
not yet,
later.
not yet. Well, and no, everything for the amount of submissions we've had back. I mean, there's always time. There's always time, but for the amount of submissions go back, and we do the deals. It's not like we're getting into these things. You try to get as much addressed 12 months ago when this deal was done for this band to think they're good because you don't want this. You know that this is in the pipe. We know that some of this stuff's coming. Like as we
Yeah.
discussed last week. there is stuff you're going to have to roll with. Now we're just trying to roll with it 5 weeks out instead of rolling with it 5 days out. So it's been, aye, it's been busy. It's been busy,
Fucking
James.
hell.
How about yourself? How have you been?
I mean, this is like because we're not yet a year through the podcast. I've just realised as you've been talking that this is quite a new bit of ground for us because I'm in full on like booking and announcement season while you're in full on the festival's going. It's like we've switched. And yeah, so I'm guess what I did today? I sent a poster for approval to booking agents. Fuck me.
Just so is it the postal that I've seen? Is that the way you're going to go with it, or was that just the lineup you
Yeah,
put?
no, we're don't tell it, do not reveal what that poster looks like. But yeah, yeah, that is it's changed a bit since you saw it, but that's it. Yeah.
Oh, I can't see anything about it really, can I?
No.
Because it's
Well,
what I'm looking.
it's different type of poster to one we've had before. Um, yeah, I don't want. Well, we can talk about it next week because it'll
Aye,
be out
well,
next
that's
week.
fine. I'm not trying to press that anyway. A friend of mine did get in touch and say, "Oh, go on then. Who's James got for threes?" And I'm like, "Mate, you could not get me drunk enough. You could not. Like, I'm quite strict when it comes to. I mean, for years and years and years, I wouldn't tell anyone anything about damnation. I've eased up a wee bit with people I know I can trust, but there's just no way. Like, somebody told me if it turns out to be true, somebody told me to download headliners for next year. I know 3 months ago. I mean, like, I
Yeah.
still want to go and tell. I want to go and tell anyone else. Like,
No,
oh, by the way, it's just that is not that's just a shitbag move.
it really annoys me when someone says to me, I know you've booked so and so to headline trees or to ATG. And I'm like, because basically you've told five people, they've all told one person each.
We've all told one person each.
They've told their mate at work, and next thing you know, it's going around. And so I've had since we talked about it on the podcast last week or the week before, I've had quite a lot of messages and I've ignored all of them. I've not responded to anyone about who the band is. So yeah, so I sent the artwork out for approval, and 7 minutes later, I got a phone call. So we're announcing a headline for Arctangent next week, and I got a phone call, and it was the headline band's agent. So I was like, "Fuck, I better answer this." And his first words were, "What the fuck is that poster?" And and it turns out he was winding me up, which I thought was very clever because me and him have had about a million horrible battles over the year about artwork. So yeah, I've already had a bunch of complaints though from different people. But yeah, next week, 30 bands, 30-ish bands, one headliner coming for Arctangent. It's I think it's like an Arctangent geeks lineup. It's mostly bands that have never played Arctangent before. There's some like, oh yeah, they should have played Arctangent by now, but they never
Yeah,
have bands on there. I'm feeling I'm feeling good about it. I think
yeah,
it's
yeah. I was fairly impressed. I have to say, as an art tangent fan and goer, I was like, yes, let's go. This is up my street. So, aye, well done and all. It sounds like you're just can't miss at the moment.
yeah, it's I think I nearly got my third headliner for trees today as well. So I'm feeling like I'm definitely ahead of where I was last year. So
And is
that's
that like nearly, i.e., that's still going in a positive direction, or that was nearly, but you've just
yeah.
been told
It's
no?
I was told it's basically gonna happen. So we're pretty much there with that, which is cool. I got one booking story for you this week, which I just thought would kind of show people how hard it is to know how much to offer for a band. So there is a band that I am their promoter in Bristol, and or me and Miles are their promoters in Bristol. So I know how many tickets they're worth, right? I've promoted them more than once in Bristol.
To the to the ticket. I mean, you know
Exactly,
exactly. It's not even
exactly.
a guess.
So I don't know how many tickets they sold in London or Manchester, but I know what venue they played. So I made an offer, and that was for £10,000, right? And the agent came back to me and said it needs to be 30. And I like very rarely am I that far out on an offer. And I'm like, mate, I am the Bristol promoter. Right. So this is how many tickets they sold in Bristol. And you're telling me it should be 30, not 10. And I'm like, what I said to him is I said this in an email, not on the phone. I don't know where agents and managers get their valuations from, but that is just a made up number.
Yeah.
So I get that the band would like 30 more than £10,000. but this is what they're worth in Bristol. So what? Which I just think is bonkers because like we lowball sometimes, don't we?
Yeah, yeah.
But
I
I
mean,
wasn't
you never
lowballing.
lowball. I mean, you never. But the thing is, you never lowball to the make yourself look like a tit. Like, so if you
No,
think the band's worth 30, you might go in at 20, 25 and know you're getting dragged up to 30. But
yeah,
you'll never
you're not
get. If you
going in
think it's
at
10,
10.
you're not going at 10.
No, exactly. And also, if you know the agent well, which I do, and you know the band well, and you book them before and you're their promoter, which they are, you're not going to just put in a stupid low offer. Like there's a couple of bands I was booking today for Trees where I was like, I haven't got a fucking clue. This band sell loads of tickets in London, no tickets anywhere else. They could ask me for 25 or they could ask me for five. I'm definitely starting at five or
Aye,
seven or something.
aye.
But and if they say 25, I'll probably just say no, let's leave it. But this is a different thing. I just think it's just wild. It's wild. Anyway, so it's all go in the booking world. Talking of booking, I've got a question for you for Damnation for next year. I
Okay.
put this in the notes, so hopefully you read them, so you got a
I
chance
was
to
about
think
like, what
about
the
this.
fuck's you talking about here? Does he know
Um,
something that I don't?
so Nailbomb are back together, and I
Right.
was listening to That's Not Metal this week, and they were talking about Nailbomb being back together, and they were saying the festival that they should play is Damnation.
Jesus. Fucking hell.
So that
I listened to last week's That's Not Metal pod.
actually it might be. I'm a bit behind, so it could be 3 or 4 weeks ago's
It was one that
episode.
happened to
Actually,
Cosmic Void, and I was driving back up from Manchester. I was like, I just listened to non-stop music for 40 hours. I'll stick on That's Not Metal. And and they got a question, and it was like about booking packages for festivals. And it's Perrin, isn't it? Perrin said,
yeah.
this is one for two promoters, not one pod. I mean, so aye, well, good to the guys think. It was Nail Bomb, so Cavalera and some other guy.
Yeah, it's not the other guy. Alex Newport is not actually joining, so it's basically just Max, I think.
Magic, so it's just Max
Of
Cavalera.
course, it is.
Neil. Well, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know a great deal, but I know the name and I know it's one of those ones that, but aye, where are we with that? Is that a bot situation? Or is it like the money's going to be show me
I don't
the.
know because it's Max. I guess he likes money. I don't really know. I don't know. They only did one album, I think, didn't they? But it would be cool.
Aye, I mean,
I think it would be cool. So
not against that idea whatsoever. I didn't know about normally the things I spot them because somebody mentioned it on the forum. So aye, and thanks to That's Not Metal team for thinking is and my budget getting absolutely blown away. Let's see if Nailbomb does what. Try Damnation.
they love Damnation, mate. Those guys.
But I'm hoping that they get a. I'm hoping for because they done an album pack last year, didn't they? With four of the sets, with the album specials, and it was one the dead guy fixation, a co-worker. And I was like, fuck, I booked it, and listening to that made me more excited about seeing it because like we have an on the record section, but I mean we scratch this up. I mean they guys go in, I mean
Yeah,
go all in for hours. So I when they were doing the Ackercock and Leprous album and Dead Guy. I can't remember what the fourth one was, but at the end of that, I was like, fuck me, man, I feel even more just about going and seeing these sets than I was, and I'm the guy that booked them. So I'm hoping to do that because I'd love to hear This Is Love, This Is Murderous, what they would say about that. Because I think they're big fans of that one. What's the other
is
sets
that the
up?
Bleeding Through album?
The Bleeding Through album.
Yeah, no, I think they've done that. I'm pretty sure Perrin posted on your forum this week, Gav.
Is
If you
that
weren't
what
so
that
busy, you'd
was?
have seen it. And
Aye,
he it was behind a paywall, I think, but now it's not. And he was posting it saying, "Damnation fans, have a listen to this." So there you go.
I will go and give that a listen. Aye, but there's a few hugely, and I mean, Hatred for Mankind by Dragged Into Sunlight. I'd love to hear some of their chatting that. So aye, there's a few bits and bobs that would be good for that. But anyway, Kofi.
Yeah,
Our super sub from last week, a guy called Gibbitus. So he followed suit. There are two. Let's add something to on the record. By all means, you want to be more creative, more inventive. We're all up for it. You want to add something to on the record. Also up for it. And a note that he sent back to the Kofi page. He said, "I'm a sucker for an interesting music video. So the track I will go with is Dissolved Orders by the band Ulcerate. Thanks for the pod, thanks for the festivals, and thanks also to everyone else in the forum to make social media worth engaging with." So,
nice.
fucking all positive. So, he is this week's super sub. I will choose, so I forgot the last time, never done it to the end, so I will choose somebody right now. And you've got a Scott Walker. So, Scott, you're thinking cap on. What do you want for
Think of
us?
something different, Scott. Come on.
Because he's like, mate, I will take the two VIP tickets to Trees. Thank you very much. Best folk bud I've ever spent. Talking of the Kofi, 54 subscribers. Appreciate every last one of these. Bry is only, I think, the only one out of the three is it's actually done something with his donation this month. He picked out himself a Godspeed You Black Emperor. Now, you don't know Bry. I know Bry. Bry's a AC/DC, Metallica, Skindred fan. I mean, he does the artwork for Skindred. I don't know who he's trying to show off to with Godspeed You Black Emperor. He's clearly off in one now. I mean, his own musical journey. So well done to Brian. There's another album. I didn't even know who the band were, but it looked like another, certainly had this sort of post-metal, post-rock artwork in it. So, aye, if nothing else, guys, you're sending Brian his own wee musical direction.
Yeah, sounds like he's coming to Arctangent next year then, Bri.
Yes. Yeah, I
With
mean, I
Godspeed.
said to him this week, I says, you need to come on enough. Get yourself in the house. I mean, James hasn't even met you. So,
No,
although he did say, I think I have met James.
you know what? I saw a photo of him with you guys this week. It was the first time I've ever seen him, I think. I don't
Aye,
think we've
well,
met, but maybe we've met. Fuck knows.
aye, well, I mean, the amount of people you've met. So, aye, thank you so much for that. Anyone who wants to get involved in that, hey, well, live tour come up. We'll maybe use that as a wee bit of a war chest to make sure we can get ourselves fed and watered
Yeah,
over the tour. Then Kofi.com/two promoters one pod.
lovely stuff. Okay, should we do some questions?
Let's do some questions. Now we're going to tackle this first question. If this has been asked before by the same guy, that's what I thought had happened. It might be the case that we've just answered something similar, but James been right in the midst of fresh announcements, fresh booking, has got something new to say. So batter on, big chap.
Yeah, I mean, we're 7 months in, so if this is our first repeat question, it's not too bad, is it?
Not too bad.
So James Scott Howes says, I have a question about the rollout of announcements. How do you decide who will be on the initial poster? How important is it to get that first announcement right? Do you have any kind of standardized metric for what makes for a good initial rollout, or is it all based on that year's lineup? So I put this in for this week, and Gav tells me we've already answered it, but I thought it would be interesting to, rather than just delete it, to um, to sort of talk about the announcements I'm doing now and why am I doing an Arctangent announcement now and not a trees one. And the reason for that is that I felt that ATG is an audience that is less driven by its headliners, and there are enough medium-sized amazing bands on that Arctangent announcement that if I hadn't had a headliner, I wouldn't have cared. I would have just given you 29 bands, even if it was in alphabetical order, and just been like, here's an Arctangent lineup to start getting excited about. We know that eventually there'll be 120. Well, here's 29 of them. So I think that kind of works at ATG. Whereas at Trees, as you know, I've got the two headliners, but there until sort of this week, there wasn't loads and loads of other stuff that had come in yet. So I didn't really want to announce two headliners on their own. I wanted to give people a nice fat 2000 Trees announcement. I think it's a different audience, and there's some people. If you think about last year's lineup, like someone that likes Don Broco maybe doesn't like Gaslight Anthem,
Yeah.
and Gaslight Anthem fans don't like Hot Milk, and there's a bunch of like that's three different sort of worlds there, and there are more than that within the 2000 Trees audience, I think.
Yeah.
So I want to try and, well, I can't please everyone, but I want to try and please more people. So we've pushed Trees back a month, basically.
What's the dream? Is it the three headliners on the first announcement? Is that the dream?
No, if they're confirmed, we'll announce them. But I don't think it matters to me. I think ideally, I'd like to do two now, and one at the end of January would be lovely. Because I don't, as I've said before, I don't really like what Bloodstock and lots of other festivals have done and just giving you everything straight away. It feels like it leaves you with no sales and marketing ideas for the future. So you better hope you sell quickly. I'd much prefer like say what Slam Dunk have done, where they've probably released half the lineup, and we will go in three or four waves of lineup announcements. That feels like the best strategy. Having said that, people want to know who headliners aren't. As we talked about on here before, last year we led with Meshuggah and Animals as leaders, and everyone was like, "Oh no, it's too tech metal, fucking hell. Where's all the post rock gone? Where's the math rock?" But it came eventually, right?
Yeah.
So it's nicer if you can have a balanced announcement, but it's not always possible. So really, to answer James's question, I've confirmed 30 bands for Arctangent. I'm going to give you 30 bands. And if at the end of September I've confirmed 45 for trees, you will get 45. And the only metric is here's the sales graph from last year, here's the sales graph from this year. How do they compare against each other? Are we ahead?
Yeah,
And if we're ahead, then we're happy.
in bingo. Yeah, I mean, it's so. I'm trying to think because actually, when I thought about if you had the three headliners to just go in that first one, would you do that? Because that's so rare that that's been here. But so 10, 11 bands confirmed for Damnation 2025. Some pretty decent names, some big names. I mean, all exciting names, but some like decent selling bands. And you're like, but not a headliner. I mean, is a headliner going to get wrapped up before in the next 5 weeks? Possibly not. But then, I mean, I kind of it's tough to remember the years where the very first announcement went out. Maybe the OPF year actually, because we'd had them booked so far in advance. Maybe the OPF year, the first announcement out did have OPF. I think it did. But then, when I said that the sales was there was anything about that year, like, oh, that's a better way for us to go. And then the reason I answered a question like this is because in 2023, the year that didn't sell as well, that was Ammon Ra the first one went out, and well, other bands that, again I thought were really exciting, but then it was a bit like, where's this or where's that band or where's a big death metal band or whatever, and then it took us a bit to sort of turn the tide in that.
Yeah.
And get that, so that's actually like when you mentioned that animals and leaders in Meshuggah, I remember viewing that. It's like, Jesus, this is the toughest I've seen a crowd on Art Tangent. Like, they're not even giving them a chance to respond. It's like, well, this is a fucking shit show. I'm going to take the year off. And you're like, fuck, man, there's 90 bands to go. It's like, you don't need to take a decision not to come because Meshuggah and Animals is leaders are there.
Yeah. And that's the danger is that if you don't give people a full enough lineup, some people sit on it and they're like, oh, this might not be the year. At the moment, they think this is going to be great. And now they're like, oh, wait a minute, I don't actually like those two bands. So I'm going to wait. Like the Arctangent headliner is, I think, like a perfect Arctangent headliner, one of the bands we've been after for years. But it's not, it will definitely not please everyone. But the band directly below them on the poster is going to please another different audience of people,
Yeah.
and so on and so forth. We'll see. I mean, yeah, even at Arctangent, you're trying to hit a number of bases, and they won't all be hit in the first 30 bands, but it's going to
No.
be, feels good. I'm feeling good.
And ultimately, like, see, and what I would say to fans as well is if that first announcement, that first batch of bands, say we were to announce 10 this year's Damnation for next year, they're not to your liking. It's like, don't need to write off the festival. I mean, don't buy your ticket, obviously. I mean, I'm not interested in selling a ticket to somebody who doesn't want a ticket, but at the same time, keep an open mind that big black metal band or death metal band or big post rock band or post might come in the next wave announcements rather than just like, I'm going to turn my attention to something else. So, aye, stick with us, give us a chance, give us a
Yeah,
chance. So,
exactly.
Mike, talking of festivals, Mike Linehan, he's the guy who does. I always forget that bloody festival's name that I went down to.
You've been to it as well, haven't you?
Aye, Manchester, right? I probably shared posters of it. He does a few different events. How many part of it?
Revolution. Is it Revolution?
Revolution. Thank you, James. Well saved. So, aye, he does that with promoting being a full time job, and this being a busy and this being an any time of day kind of night position. What do you both do outside music to unwind, reflect, ground yourselves when the pressure of running a festival gets too much? Last that.
Yeah, go.
I don't feel that the pressure running the festival gets a bit too much, and not because I don't think that there is a lot of pressure on this, and there is like hundreds of thousands in the line, but because came from a job where I used to chap in the door of parents who had just lost their son or daughter and asked them about their kid who died in a car crash the night before, or I used to go to bed at night and know that there's a chance that I could be going to court the next day on a defamation charge because I was responsible for everything that was in the paper, and those pressures, albeit financial, are still there, or reputational, are there for damnation. Is not nothing like the feeling of sitting in a room with a grieving parent and asking them to spell the surname properly because you want to have your fucking facts right before you go to print. So I don't view it like that. I don't. There isn't a tour manager, band, or anyone on the planet I wouldn't be quite comfortable telling to fuck off if I felt that they were being assholes to me. Whereas I've been in a lot of situation journalism where I wouldn't do that, and that pressure at the time was a lot more than what it was. So Aye, I don't view the same pressure for Damnation. I definitely felt that my previous job had a lot more pressure than it, and because I could potentially end up in jail
How often did your paper go to print?
6 times a week.
Fucking hell. So you had six deadlines a
Six
week.
deadlines to sit two on a Friday because we would do what I would do is I would have the paper print done, ready to go for Monday's edition, and then I would have a reporter and a photographer on over the weekend to pick up the sport, and then if there was ever any murders or any serious crimes, which there was a lot of in the west of Scotland, we would go in on the Sunday and redo the front page. So, aye, six editions a week, and and we had some hairy moments where you were getting. I mean, the level of knowledge, understanding about, especially court reporting, you can get caught out in some jigsaw identification stuff, and like the age of people with sex crimes went from 16 to 18 while I was in the midst of being an editor. So you were still getting older reporters were getting caught with that, and you were catching it as going to print, and it's fucking naming somebody that now
Right.
legally should be named, and just stuff like that was it's just a different pressure to somebody saying, look, you need to get more tools. I mean, it just is. So, I mean, the worst case scenario as well, like you don't want your headliner to throw a strop and not go out on the stage at night. Your festival might die. Like, but ultimately, it's not it's not going to Berlin and doing 6 months for some fucking defamation that you've case that you've lost. So it's I don't feel the same level of I did enjoy that job, but the pressures are just a different ball game altogether. And then just one thing I can come onto this and sometimes and I can be a bit dismissive of PR and press and that because some people like they want a deadline to be 3 weeks long. I mean, a deadline happens that day. It's like, oh, I'm on deadline. I'm all right with what 3 o'clock? No, like next Tuesday. I'm like, you're not on fucking deadline then. You'll be on deadline next Tuesday. You know what I mean? You're on deadline. So, aye, there's a bit of that as well. But that's another story. Would you like to tell us what you do to unwind, though, James? Because I've
Amazing.
not
So
answered that question at
Gav
all.
doesn't need to unwind is the answer to that question. Um, what I do, I find this job quite stressful quite a lot of the time. I think because of the massive monetary risk that we're taking
Yeah,
and balancing the agent relationships that you never want to like torpedo important relationships by doing the wrong thing, trying to keep everyone happy, but ultimately taking a couple of £1 million, well, across the two festivals, £3 or £4 million riskier feels scary. So I mean, I don't know. I unwind in the same way that lots of people do. I guess I play football, play tennis, play golf. Played
play
golf for the
tennis.
first time this week. Which one of those
I mean,
sports
did
are
you
you
play
laughing at?
tennis? Like, I
You,
mean, I mean, you're doing your Tory upbringing, absolute reputation, absolutely no good with that whatsoever.
oh God,
It is.
fuck you,
I've never lived somewhere where you could have a tennis court.
mate. Oh God,
We
you,
had a bit of fencing and squash at the
mate,
weekend.
you'd hate the you'd hate the place I play tennis. I'll send you a photo. Oh God, I walked right into that, didn't I? Oh, I mean, you're taking the piss out of tennis being a middle class sport, and you let golf slide. That's interesting.
I mean, golf. No, I think golf can get quite working. I mean, but I think it's because a lot of people I grew up with liked using golf clubs, whether it was for sport or not. And I feel like golf is a. I feel like golf is. Aye, a pretty. I mean, pretty what you get shitty golf clubs. I mean, I know you get the ones like the rich and famous, but you get pretty fucking down and dirty golf clubs. But so, aye, I think golf's a bit more. Tennis is a bit like, come on, you're at it.
Mate, Andy Murray, what are you talking
I
about?
know we had to send him to London. It's like the poor bastard literally had to leave the country to become good. So, aye, fucking
I,
anyway.
I,
So,
I really walked into that. You know what I do love more than anything, though? If you said to me, you can do anything to relax, this is honestly true. I would go to a festival. That's 100% what I do to relax. Like
yeah,
Damnation, Download, Roadburn. Fucking, I just love going to festivals.
yeah. I mean, that's
So
that is definitely. I mean, I've got a Celtic season ticket. I love football. I enjoy the UFC, and here's me trying to say middle class. I'm a bit of a foodie. I do love going out to a nice posh restaurant with my wife and enjoying a good meal as well. So, aye, those things. But your answer would have to be aye. The thing that I do most, if I've got the choice, is get to a music festival.
the funny thing about this podcast is we're getting to know each other through people's questions. It's weird. I didn't know you were a foodie. That's good. Let's go for it.
I never heard you with tennis or golf in my entire fucking life. How's
Mate,
your
why are we drinking 10 pints and eating a fucking Burger King when we both like nice food? What?
why,
Right, next
why are
time
we
we go
doing
out,
that? Also, how's your bench press coming on since last week?
my brother has offered to train me.
Fuck's
He's
sake,
like,
you've got no
he's like,
chance.
he's like, you can beat Gav.
I actually thought because Rob mentioned it, as it goes right now before training, I think I could beat both of you combined, you and your brother. So
Let me ask you a question.
yeah,
Forgetting me or whatever you think about my commitment to beating you,
yeah.
is it possible for a person in a year to beat you in bench pressing bench pressing from a standing start? Are you like some sort of machine? Because I saw you post your number
Yeah, no,
on
that
the on
it's
the
just
group, and
it's
somebody
just
was like,
that. So
"Whoa,
I'm not fuck this, but 160k for one rep is an impressive number. So, and when I started, I remember trying to do 65 and fucking like that, like about 10 years ago. So I'm a bit like the chances of you and Rob both being able to do 80 each. You being able to do 80 and Rob, maybe one of you could make if Rob it doesn't look like he trains, but
Rob trains. He does train."
all right, well there you
So
go. But at marathons,
this is a good segue because the next question is from Rob. Um,
let's go, Rob.
okay, we all have guilty pleasures from our rock upbringing. I guess you've talked about these, but which ones do you semi-regularly put on and still love? You got any guilty musical pleasures that you go
Well,
back
yeah, I
to?
mean, I mean, so when I was before, 'cause I knew that I really did love. I've mentioned before about that I was into like Dutch hardcore music. I've always had or my dad would listen to like Jesus Jones and fucking Pink Floyd, and I always did love music, but I just never really found a way into it. And I suppose the guilty pleasure before I really found metal was I liked Alanis Morissette and that album Jagged Little Pill, and now, years and years and years and years later, my wife every now and then will go between her fucking shit show of Shania Twain and 80s pop, just Jagged Little Pill sometimes drop back onto the mix. And every time that goes on, I always find myself nodding along singing every single fucking word to it. So I suppose I wouldn't actively go and listen to Alanis Morissette, but when it comes on, I always enjoy it.
I mean, that's a remarkable answer. Wow, it's conjuring up images that I just can't quite can't
I'm not
quite get
even,
my head
I was
around.
going to bust into
Incredible.
ironic there, and I'm just like, I'm just not fucking doing it.
Please, come on. Imagine the reel we could have. That would the Instagram reel, mate. My answer is these three bands I genuinely listen to quite regularly. Pretty much my first two rock bands ever was Extreme and The Little Angels, and I don't fucking care. I still get a buzz out of listening to it. It's very for those of you that don't know them, it's very early 90s, but it sounds like the 80s. The other band is from my childhood, a band called Doctor Hook, that my parents really loved, and we just got like hammered with throughout our childhood. I fucking love Doctor Hook. They're amazing.
Another random point of getting to know people about this pod. I'm pretty sure that Bri does the artwork for any Doctor. Does Doctor Hook still tour?
Yeah, well, yeah, I think they do.
Bri does the artwork for Adoman and Doctor Hook.
No way. Right,
I
Bridie, hook us up somehow with something. Come on.
I need to meet the fucking people in Doctor Hook.
Great.
Was that all
Good.
three? Was that all three? Did you
Yeah,
all
yeah.
get guilt pleasure?
Extreme Little Angels, Doctor Hook. Love it.
Right, we'll do one more question and get to tour managers before we end up with a fucking 7 hour podcast here, talking
Yep.
about training and tennis. So, Jonathan Day, what's been the favourite lineup festival lineup you've been to? I'll start. There was two that really stood out. Now, if you were to sit back and I was going through every download, maybe every art tangent, like you probably want to piece them all together. Like that was the best collection of bands I've done. But two that I was a bit like, I am leaving this country and going to see where Amplifest 2022. They had Amon Ra, Cult of Luna, Envy, Godspeed You Black Emperor, Death Heaven, Cave In, Birds and Row, among a bunch of others splattered over 2 weekends. And that's how I mean, and the other festival on top I'm going to mention is Dunk. Both of these festivals are like 1,000 capacity, and our tickets are €90. How the fuck are you getting Godspeed You Black Emperor, Envy, Amon Ra, Cult Luna, Death Heaven, Cave In? I mean, either the market price for those bands when they go there is so cheap, or the government grants are so astronomical. Like you could never do that in the UK. You could never
No.
do that in the UK. That's pretty much a fucking art tangent line up there, and you
I
still
mean,
need
it's
to charge.
bold to choose an arctangent competitor as your favourite lineup.
It's not a competitor. Fuck it. He's in Portugal.
I don't mean, well, I mean competitor. I don't know. There's a better word for it, but a similar festival.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those ones as well. You get in that the dunk one that I went to last year. There was one day. This was the bill. This is the run of their main stage billing. Nordic Giants, maybe she will, and so I watch you from afar. Caspian into Amun Ra. What a run of bands that was. And elsewhere, I think the following day was Gold. We lost the sea, and then Mono. So again, 1,000 capacity event. Fucking tickets, 60, €70 with those bands playing. So I had two lineups of like the proof's in the pudding in it. I went on a plane to Dunk by myself and just went and watched bands that I love all in a row.
Good, nice, good answers. I kind of wanted to go back through old Reading Festival lineups, which I did, but I didn't do it. And I was going to look at Donington Monsters of Rock as well because that was my early festivals. But the one that I didn't have to do any research on and was ringing in my head was Roadburn 2016. Get this right, fuck. This is one festival. This is unbelievable. So the opening band of the festival was Cult of Luna playing Somewhere Along the Highway in full. Neurosis played twice for their 30th anniversary. Converge played twice, once playing Jane Doe in full and the other time doing Blood Moon. Armin Ra played twice, once doing an acoustic set, which was fucking cool. On top of all of that, Aranzi Pazuzu, I'd never seen any of these bands before. Aranzi Pazuzu, Hex Vessel, Dark Widow Rising, Hemmelby Stormer, and fuck loads others. And that is unbelievable. And it makes me realise that although Roadburn's changed quite a lot now, fuck me, that when they were doing that like that
Was
sort of
that
lineup, that's why
2016 you said?
that's why it's my
That's
favourite
the kind of
festival.
lineup I think I would have been, that I would have even went across and
Yeah,
done. What did I do? I done the year that they were, oh, you
God,
were there. Godspeed,
God's
your Black Emperor were
Godspeed
twice.
were playing the year that me and you were both there. But I don't know what year that was. But yeah, 20. I mean, that is unbelievable. I know we don't really talk about neurosis anymore because of all the horrible shit that's gone on. But at the time, no one knew anything about that. So
Aye,
it was, yeah,
retrospectively, but like fuck, I
yeah,
never. Aye, so aye, that's quite a lineup.
yeah.
I hope someone somewhere in some fucking European equivalent to this podcast is mentioning our tangent or damnation. That time I saw Skindred at Damnation 2006. There you go, pal. Tour managers. Let's talk about tour managers. I've been wanting to talk about tour managers for a while. I think it's an interesting job, and it's got some interesting characters. So tell us, James, what the is a tour manager?
Yeah. So again, obviously, there's lots of different people listening here. Some of you are like, "Fucking hell, don't fucking tell me what a tour manager is. I already know."
I am
But
a tour
for
manager.
but for that, yeah. But for those that don't know, I mean, it does what it says on the tin. The tour manager does manage the tour. They're employed by the band. They work on behalf of the artist to make sure the tour or festival show runs smoothly. So a lot of people get confused that it has to be a tour, as in multiple dates. But if Animals as Leaders played a one-off show at Arctangent last year, they had a tour manager, right? So just to play one show, you need a tour manager to. Well, tour managers look after first of all the technical side, so lights and PA, and they make sure that the promoter or the venue or the festival is giving them the right technical stuff. They look after the logistical stuff, which is travel and guest list and um, like what hotels they're in, where the vehicles are going to park, and all that sort of stuff. And then, as we talked about on the Riders podcast, they look after the hospitality side of it, the food and the drink. So, you know, the tour manager is basically like a babysitter for the band. It, from my experience watching the music industry, and I haven't done a lot of touring myself, they're the hardest working people out there because they're basically up first and they're in bed last, and um, they're often working while the band's on stage doing the best bit of the day. Like, why does a band go on tour? So that they can do the live show. Well, often the tour manager at that point is either backstage advancing the next shows or they're sitting on the merch desk or
Yeah.
whatever, or they're dealing with a problem with the hotels later. So yeah, it's a pretty mad job.
And I mean, you nailed it with just how important that role can be. But I mean, often you get tour managers who are also either the driver and the tour manager, or the merch seller and the tour manager. I don't know if there's ever been some poor bastard that's been roped in for the fucking triangle of doom, and you're doing all of those together. But I'm sure there will be somewhere,
Yeah,
and it's like, I mean, Tom Begley again, talk about a good friend and a guy. If when we're into him, hope to get him out with us. He was doing the Death Heaven one. He was doing tour managing both bands and then selling the merch. And you're like, he probably never even got to see a note of Death Heaven play. It's like, and I get it. It's a job. We do a lot of that stuff talking from our passion for music, but he got into it because he was passionate about the music too. And then it's like, that's a long ass day. If the payoff would be a bit, you could just enjoy a bit of live music every now and then, but you're stuck behind a merch stall somewhere slinging
yeah. Well,
t-shirts.
well, one of the first, I think, the first time I ever met Tom was at this Roadburn that I was just talking about in 2016, and he was there with Converge, and he actually had some Boss merch. I'm pretty sure I bought some Boss merch off him. But he was the Roadburn has like a separate merch area which is away from the stages, and he was in there for the whole time because basically that's his job. So yeah, it's not always that glamorous being the tour manager.
I don't know if it's ever that glamorous being a tour
No,
manager, but it's folk that just they've got that sense of organisation about them, and it is they are important. I mean, what would say about? 'Cause I asked, I'd done a Damnation versus with Tom, and also like if you're a band that's going out and you're getting paid £200, why on earth would anybody? I don't know, like a tour manager's £100, £150 at maybe that level. Why on earth would you be giving three quarters of your money or half of your money to one, and when the rest of the band are all going to get buying what £20 each, even if if I'm going to book agents taking their money, there's nothing left. And he's a bit like, well, the money that forget all the just the hassle of babysitting, the money that a good tour manager can save an inexperienced band on tour by knowing that it's much cheaper to fly out of Portugal than it is to fly out of Spain, or in this day, something's gonna, or a different route to go because of tolls, or a better person to van hire and the contacts. It can be thousands. You mean you could literally just save everything you're paying a tour manager just by their contacts experience and the money that they'll shave off whatever plan you were going to try and hastily put together with whatever knowledge you've got of Europe, which is largely for most of us none.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, and there's an element of like when it's show day. So when a band arrives at a festival, the artist liaison team will greet the band, and they're not often talking to the band; they are talking to the tour manager, right? So there's an element of bands are able to be more like the artists and more professional and more and just like relax and get ready for because really, you're going to Damnation. You've come from Belgium, and you've got 45 minutes, and the only bit of the day that actually matters is the 45 minutes on stage. And having a tour manager with you definitely enables you to like do the show right, do a better version of the
Yeah,
show.
yeah, because
Um,
it's not always because you've got a lot of bands that they'll tour manage themselves because they have a tour manager within their ranks. I mean, a guy like John Helps from Maybe She Will, he's a professional tour manager, but he's also in Maybe She Will. So he's one of the ones that's like, I'll take that. You're a bit like that's a lot, isn't it? Because so the band get the chance, the opportunity to go and be the band and get that time. Like John's always day in, day out, the guy advanced next. Where's the bus going to go? Where's it going to park? I mean, I saw it firsthand for a couple of days. I mean, like, it's it's a job on top of the job. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And it's a bit like, fucking hope, but I'm sure the band do appreciate just the amount of effort that goes into that on top of, because if you're a bit like, because here we are, we're going to put a tour together, could probably do with the extra cost of tour manager, but we're not considering going out without a tour manager.
no, because I mean, there's a bunch of things you want that tour manager to do, right? And the very top of the list is sell merch because otherwise,
I mean, especially for
you,
us, because you're a bit like we're two guys sitting like we're not going to be saying going to make sure that the drum kit's there and all the mics are ready and you've got all the pedal and everything. So we're like two guys sitting in two chairs. So they're a bit like we understand that the logistics of getting us on stage and that stage to be ready for us is a fraction of what it would be in even the most basic hardcore punk band.
Yeah, but there's still some things that have to be done, which is presumably we're going to film the episode, the thing, so that we can put it out on YouTube, and someone will have to hang the banner, and someone's got to sell the merch, and someone's got to shout at the promoter because they didn't give you the right Jack Daniels or whatever, and it feels it feels better if you're not the one out in front of the crowd trying to the banner's falling down and you've got to go and fix it
Yeah,
just before you go on.
yeah,
Do you know
yeah.
what I mean?
And I tell you, nothing will make you feel that more quickly than me at trees. That's it. That's exactly what happened. So I showed up at trees, and that's a weird. That's a weird sort of advancing as well, in the sense of like it's the guy that I do the podcast with his festival. You know what I mean? It's like I'm not quite sure. So you're kind of showing up there like, okay, this is. I've spoke to some guy in production, and it's apparently everything we need is going to be there. But I show up 3 hours beforehand, 4 hours beforehand, and there's kids making jigsaws or something in the word stage and nothing on stage at all. So I'm like, right, okay. So you say to whoever's beside it, the stage, right? I'm with two promoters, one pod, and we've got a banner. And he just looked at me blankly, like I've got no idea what you're talking about. And there's no microphones here. There is no recording equipment here. I could probably find you some tables and chairs, but I don't know what you're talking about. Now, his job might have been in the next 2 hours to go away and do something else. I don't even know who that guy is. He doesn't know who I am. So I'll be like, ah, shit. Now, the last thing I want to do in the world at that point is go, James, I know you're in the middle of running your massive festival, mate, but there's fuck all here. So I'm away wandering about 2,000 trees like a fucking day one, no experience tour manager, trying to find somebody to ask. And ultimately, what was planned is an hour or two later, the people that were going to do that party were all going to show up and get it set up. And it was all in hand. But at that point, I'm about like, I don't know, we could just be fucking walking out here and just shouting at the crowd. But then even once that bit was resolved, it took me an hour. I chatting doors and trying to find Sarah and fucking looking for Mitch, and people probably don't even have anything to do with this. And I'm just walking about in a blind panic, like, oh shit, we need to get this sorted. Then somebody needs to hang the banner. No, that's no one's job. So it's my job. So then you're kind of out beforehand, like a bit like a dick, fucking hanging up your own banner, like again, like proper DIY. There's not like we're going to walk out and it's Axl Rose or fucking James Bernard Keenan going to do it. But at the same time, you don't want to be the guy that's faffing about with a zip cord in front of even 60 or 70 people anyway, just feeling like a bit like a twat. So, I feel that like, Jesus, right now I wish we had a tour manager because
So next year at Trees, we need Begley there as well.
so it was just, I mean, it was weird. No, it's a strange one because I think even you learn from that experience to art tangent where there was no time in the day to get up and panic. It was either I showed up when you were there and it was ready for us to go, or it was a car crash. I mean, like you don't, there was no 3 p.m. in the afternoon. It was like 10 in the morning. It was good to go. So by the time I showed up, but your stage team had already taken it, they thought it, had planned out. You, the same as myself, didn't quite like the ones where you're reclining in, so the chairs became better, the table was better. So within one podcast, the podcast two, it's like, right, okay, but that's something that a tour manager would already be on for you date after date. Just make sure, like, right, can we have that? Going to make sure it's no two sofas that the legs kick up and then the two of them are lying in their backs, kind of thing. Know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, although just to let people behind the scenes, there is a big difference between Trees and ATG in those podcast stages because the one at Trees is a multi-purpose stage which changes throughout the day. It's like kids stuff and then podcasts and talks and then like a pub quiz and then comedy. And it's very different and it's got different crew in there at different times and different
Yeah,
people.
yeah. I mean, listen,
Whereas,
I want this because I don't want anyone at 2000 Trees at any level to think that I'm not saying they were prepared. What I'm saying is I wasn't prepared. I didn't know that crew was changing over
yeah,
and
yeah.
people wouldn't know. So that's not, in fact, the stage manager, the young woman who was doing the stage manager was fucking incredible the whole day, right up to later that night. She had sorted. She was that organised. She'd taken her banner away before I drunkenly get back to it and got fucking packed up somewhere. So it's they were far more organised than I was.
Yeah, no, I was absolutely gutted after Arctangent to realise that you'd fucked off home and I've got the banner.
Why can't you have the banner? I don't
It
understand.
feels like I've got a lot of time to lose that banner now. But yeah, so yeah, so when a tour, so just going back to tour managers, so when a tour manager turns up at a festival, as I said, they're the ones talking to the arts liaison team, but it is really weird how the different styles they have because some are super hands-on. So Sarah was telling me today that we quite often get bands turning up at trees with their own radio system, and they give Sarah a radio. So basically, they fuck off to the dressing room or the tour bus, and they can get us at any time of day they want because you're on their radio.
Fuck.
Or they ask for a runner, so you have to give them a member of the arts liaison team 100% of the time to basically be the tour manager's assistant. So
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
like
how
for
big
one end
how
of the
big
scale.
is we talking here? Because I don't think the radio thing happens, but the runoff thing happens quite often. But you're talking headline status before you're asking for the kind of demands at damnation. So I mean, how far up the bill is it said it's starting to go, shit, this is a band that's gonna be asking for runners?
Well, I think the problem we have is that we fly in at trees a lot. There's a lot of American touring bands that are, like someone like the Bronx have been around a long time. I mean, I'm not talking about the Bronx's tour manager because I don't know the Bronx's tour manager, but they're headlining the third stage at Trees. They're a big band, but they're still only at
Yeah,
the headline in the third stage. But they've been around a long time, so they will have their shit together definitely. And so I can imagine a situation where a band like them would have a serious tour manager with that sort of like needs. And then it's a lot for the team, for the arts liaison team, because you've got another 10 or 15 bands to look after that have got those sort of requirements on any given day.
aye.
We had 6 tour buses at ATG, 6 tour buses at Trees. I mean, that gives you some sign of how big the bands are.
See, I don't even. We seem to get quite a lot of tour buses, even without that. There's many bands that actually. We just seem to always have fucking tour. But it must be that period where if we're picking up the package tours, whatever, they're just already on tour. Because I mean,
Yeah.
as I say, we've got 4 that we know about so far this year. And for that space, and you're a bit like and that's another thing about tour managers as well. You get the different levels of experience. I remember talking to Luke Bell, the former singer of Panic Cell, and the guys out with likes of Red Hot Chili Peppers and Kings Leon now. And he would talk about when other tour managers was coming up, they'd be like, it's their first bus tour. So then there's a whole new level of experience to gain about managing a tour bus because my understanding is they select the beds. So the tour manager, you get 2 bands on there, and it's the headline tour manager's job to make sure everyone's getting the bed. Sometimes the beds might be bigger or smaller, the bunks might be tighter. It's the tour manager's job to make sure that everywhere they go, they're parked, powered, and when you're going through any city, there's always quirks where you just can't get near that venue or you need to swap. And then that's where you get relationships where a guy like Luke Bell can just, if you go to Nottingham and you can't get outside Rock City, Luke Bell can get you outside the stadium because
Yeah.
he's got a relationship. But then it's a
Yeah.
case of then you need to do either a crossload or you need to get them shuttled in taxis. And that, I remember him when I think it was the Pretty Reckless tour he was doing at the time. And he talked about another tour manager and saying, oh, that'll be his or her first bus tour. And that's just like, well, you don't even think about these things like off the bat and the different levels. And then Tom Begley's the one that says, like, when you get into arena tours, in a lot of ways, it's easier than the club tours because every club you're showing up in, it's just a whole new ballgame of
Yeah.
where you can park, where you can get power. Is there showers that are working? Is the stage the dimensions what you need to get the stuff on it? When every arena you go into, like, it's just a big open space. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're now getting paid twice as much and traveling and luxury, but for some reason the job's easier in a lot of way. But you took all that experience to get to that level, be able to get the trust in the industry that you could go out and look after a band like that. And I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
sure, I mean, we are talking about this. I mean, your tour manager probably listening to this going, fucking 2 idiot promoters try to tell us our job. That is not, but this is from a promoter's point of view, us working with tour managers. And I suppose this episode will be called like tackling or taming tour managers because we're going to get to talking about some of our relationship with tour managers rather than trying to tell you what the job is. That's just so you've got some sort of scope of what we're about to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah. So something that just popped into my head, which is a slight aside, is that yesterday somebody posted on, I think it was on the Two Promoters One Pod group, the Parkway Drive, like little 20-minute YouTube documentary. Do you see it? And
I always seen with Parkway Drives on you that production head where the guy was fucking in the sky on fire. It
yeah,
looked
so
incredible.
if anyone wants to see what a mad, it like mixes a few of the things we talked about on this podcast. Firstly, it's got a windstorm, a crazy fucking like storm, and it's got tour managers trying to deal with it. Begley is in it because he's with Thy Art Is Murder, so he like cameos when Thy Art Is Murder have like had their set cut short. He's there giving it a bit of banter and changing the set list and stuff. But it's all about Parkway Drive and how they managed to play the show. They kicked a couple of bands were just like, you can't play, there's no time. They were trying to get all their sets done before the storm hits, and it's all just like behind the scenes production managers and tour managers chatting about how they're going to do it. It's quite good. I enjoyed it.
I will definitely watch it.
But yeah, so um, I mean the difference between mine and your role in the festivals is I've now got Sarah that basically takes all of this crap away from me. So I was trying to think today about what do I know about tour managers and what are my experiences with tour managers. And it reminded me that in 2007 and 8 and 9, I was the main stage manager at 2000 Trees, which
Right.
sounds like a lie. Even I feel like I'm lying. Like it can't have been true, but it was true. I had no experience stage managing. I had no experience running a festival. I had no fucking business being anywhere near the field, really. Um, and
I'm in the bar.
so yeah, so the first memory I have of a tour manager was in 2008, and we had Art Brutes playing on our main stage, and it was a really wet year. And the stage manager, me, had not controlled the mud onto the stage and stuff, and it just got fucking everyone that came onto the stage just walked more and more and more mud up there, and then this fucking guy was basically up in my face. I didn't even know what a tour manager was, and he's in my face, and he's basically shouting something about like, not even Glastonbury would be this muddy. And all I can think is, there's not even a fucking, there's not a broom anywhere on site as far as I'm aware. So it's not like I can be like, it's okay, mate. I'll go and get the stage broom. It's like, you're supposed to have a broom on a stage? What the fuck?
What the fuck?
So it was a shit show. So that was 2008, but this all culminated. I almost got fired from the role of stage manager
By
in
who?
2000. Well, so in 2009 we had Fight Star headlining, and before them was the King Blues, and before them was Amplifier, our old friends Amplifier. Lots of equipment, and basically Amplifier are on stage with lots of equipment. The King Blues load in their their equipment into the back of the stage, and Fight Star comes up to me and he's like, "We need to load in." And the correct answer at that time, I now realise, was no. You have to wait until this other band's finished and load it out because there's nowhere to put your stuff. But I was basically a shit stage manager, and the tour manager bullied me, and I let Fight Star load in, and it was basically just like fucking. It was it was like Tetris, but if the game had like fragged out and it was broken, and we just and like everyone was just stood around going, "What the fuck has happened here?" And it was like someone had just walked around with like a gun and just sprayed amps everywhere and drum kits everywhere, and no one could do anything. And the tour manager, the Fight Star tour manager, like shouting at me, and yeah, after all of that, our sort of sound guy said to me, "I think you should get a stage manager."
Yeah, yeah. I think you should get a stage manager. I'm trying.
Considering how little I do now when the festival's on, in those days I was on the stage, tied to the stage.
Yeah, I have this. Thankfully, I recognised even from day one that anything that involved technical, they had to point out the difference between a drum kit and a guitar. I would have failed badly. I mean, I let myself show rep for far too long, all the way until our good friend Hayden Britland says, "Why are you doing this? Why are you spending 80 grand in a festival and not spending an extra 200 to get somebody to do this? Why are you going through putting it? Why are you making it miserable for yourself and also then miserable for the bands because they're trying to find where you are and you're fucking not doing the job that you've signed up in the sheet to do."
Yeah.
So I was probably a bit shitty a show rep as you were a stage manager, and I'm so fucking glad we binned that off way back. But my first experience actually knowing, because 2005, 2006, bands like The Haunted and Entombed, and I mean, bands they were still big reputation bands, but they seem to tour manage themselves. I mean, even I think the guy from The Haunted still tour manages The Haunted and At the Gates when he's playing in At the Gates, one of the brothers. So I did have experience of tour managers, and some of it not very pleasant, but I was still like band members as well. So I never had that whole distinct role of what a tour manager was until Creator showed up in 2007. And then that was the lesson that I learned that I've just taken with me forever now, is that whole way there's never too many yeses that I mentioned in the last podcast. He showed up in this, they saw me, would have been 24, 25 by that point. This guy's easily in his late 40s, maybe early 50s, and just says, I am going to ride this wee boy for his everything I can get off him. I mean, and he wasn't unpleasant with it, 'cause that's the thing with me. If you're unpleasant to me, it stops immediately. You know what I mean? I don't mind like having a set to with someone, but if you're pleasant to me and you make me feel like I make myself feel like I'm inexperienced, I'm running about with a fucking broom, making sure can I sweep that for you, sir? Can I do that for you? Because I'm a bit like I should be better at this, and this guy 4 decades of experience in me with fucking 3 wee festivals under my belt and nothing else. So he showed up and he's like, the red wine that you've got, it's not good enough. And I'm like, right, no, we're not drinking that red wine. Right, we need Amarone and Chianti and that. Right? So you go and send somebody away, you bring in. You realise half an hour later, you never got the stuff they said they wouldn't drink. They keep all that too. I mean, they keep all the wine, the rioja and that they said was shit. That all and then gets drank. But they just get the good stuff on top. So you're like, right, okay, fair enough. Excuse me, Gavin, the band, we play whacking and when the hell, and we get free merch. And I'm like, right, okay, well, there's 5 hoodies and some t-shirts. Right, okay. And then it's like something happened with dinner. And then it was the extra guest came in. And then this guy had just basically bitch slapped me for the whole fucking day. I was just, yes, sir. Can I give you more? Yes, sir. Know what I mean? Thought I was going to go up and fucking clean their shoes for them. And at one point it got to like, I don't know, half 11, 12, and he goes, I'd like to ask, can we have shuttles back for our guests? Like, so can you arrange some sort of van or taxis for the guests? I went, no, absolutely not. And he went, okay. And then I went, well, it was just like, it was just in that split second, I realised that there was nothing. I was basically getting back to this hotel with him and rubbing his feet if I said yes. But at that point, I was just, there was going to be nothing. This guy was going to say, I'm taking this wee guy for everything he's got if he's going to be sitting here like a novice and just nodding away and just giving me everything that I want with no pushback. And at that point, I realised, you're right. These guys are not there to be your friend. They're there to make sure the band get as much as that band can get.
And that's what Sarah was saying to me is that the challenge is sifting through all the requests to work out which are the ones that are actually important to the band or are a critical, they must have this, and this. She was
Yes.
like, she said to me this summer at Arctangent, and one of the biggest bands on the festival um, needed 2 rotisserie chickens. And we're like, well, we're in a field, right? So we can't do them. And they're like, no, it's like basically not going on stage unless you give us 2 rotisserie chickens. So Sarah got our caterer to make the 2 rotisserie chickens and put them in their dressing room for them. And when the band had left, there were still 2 entirely untouched fucking rotisserie chickens, you wankers.
Oh,
Like, it's just like,
so much of that. I mean, this didn't happen. I said we've talked before about the riders and so much of its wish list. But you see, sometimes you ever see a rider, the stuff that's absolutely essential: soya milk, peanut allergies, like the stuff that's like lemon and honey for the vocalist time because they're flying in and they're not going to get to a Tesco and get some lemon and honey for the vocalist. That stuff is usually in red, exclamation marks, must be provided, and then the wish list of the fucking 7 cases of Guinness and that kind of crap goes beneath. And that's where your battleground is in a rider, in my experience. But then you get that, like last year a band shows up and it's just in the middle of this fucking endless list of stuff. There's something called ginger shots. I've never had a fucking ginger shot in my entire life. So I do the Riders of Damnation. So I order everything. I go through, I score out what I'm not willing to get, and I get what I'm willing to get. And this band, like, no, absolute essential. Ginger. I'm like, what the fuck's a ginger shot? Like it's a natural bit of ginger or something, or ginger juice that you take and it gives you a wee natural high if you don't drink alcohol or you don't take drugs. And I was like, and they're that essential. Oh no, definitely. And I'm like, well, why not fucking put it on the rider there? I'm like, oh, because no, because the rider, like we want it all. I mean, of course you want it all, but you're not saying you don't have the marshmallows, are you? You're because the marshmallows are missing. So that's it. So you've got a guy jumping in a fucking car. And God knows what time to drive it to wherever the local Asda is for something called ginger shots. To this day, I'm still not even quite sure what a ginger shot is or why it was so important. And you're like, so I give us, I think what they don't want to do, the bands, because you will get some promoters that just kind of fall for each thing, is they don't want to make anything like, here's tier A, here's tier B, here's we know we're taking the piss, but if you're stupid, you're still going to get it. So they're a bit like, I can't stand when a tour manager comes in and starts pointing to the contracts and that. Like, this is what you're on it. Like, and then back to last week's episode as well. Like, aye, there's the other 17 things that are not provided. I mean, you don't have a 42-person guest list. You don't have you never had a 3 hour sound check. I mean, why would the ginger shots be any more important or relevant to me than the 3 hour sound check that you never even sound check for 10 seconds? So it's a bit mad just when you mentioned the rotisserie chicken. I remember the ginger shots.
Well, mate, what occurs to me is that me and you are shortly going to get to sit down and write our own rider, which it feels like I've really like probably it's probably the high point of my life and career.
That and we need to try and convince Hayden to come on for an episode and do a planning the
Yeah,
tour. We need to do like that. 'Cause I want it to be like much like this podcast. Everything right up to the fees can be. Let's have a chat about it. So I want to say, look, this is our rider. That's the rider we put out, and then maybe
yeah,
come to our side like, this is how much the rider we did not get.
yes.
ginger,
Okay, good.
ginger shots and rotisserie chicken. Talking of another like so that creator year was 2007. What doesn't work for me and hasn't worked for me is just being abrasive off the bat, just being combative for the seconds you like. And you do get tour managers like that. They just come in all guns blazing. That's how they get their results. That's how they enjoy doing it, or maybe they fucking
Yeah,
hate being a tour manager. Just gets them through the day. In 2014, we were due to meet unload Cannibal Cops at 10:30. And at 20 to 11, the tour manager was screaming at Paul on the phone saying, the crew's not here, the crew's not here. So we get done in this American guy in his 20s. And American tour managers, in my experience, can be assholes. So, not all of them, sure, but the American tour managers I've met my fair share of assholes. And this guy was fucking ranting. Oh, this is it all done. Fucking, he's shouting like we last night in London, we done 1,600 tickets. And I'm not even sure how that's relevant. I mean, it's like this festival's 4,000 capacity. So he's just screaming the fucking odds at me. And I'm like, right, okay. So it gets a bit, I'm getting wound up as in it. Like, who the fuck's he in, kids? You know what I mean? I'm getting myself wound up at fucking 20 to 11 in the morning. And then our crew's there. So I'm looking a bit. We have all our crew, so I've got like 10 bodies there by this point because we've phoned in everybody to lift and shift stuff. And I'm looking a bit, and this guy's nowhere to be seen suddenly for like 2 minutes ago, being this is the end of the world and we'll no play your shitty festival and fucking 1,600 tickets in London to nowhere to be seen. So I'm like, I'm working myself up into an angry rage now, so I'm storming about the fucking venue, trying to find this guy to like scream back at him. Listen, you prick, where do you need this stuff? I've got the team there. You're making such a big deal. I walk into the dressing room and he's fucking bald naked. I mean, facing me, cock out. Get in the hole. He couldn't be more American if his name was fucking Chad Hogan. I mean, like, he's got a towel. He's just out of shower, getting a towel. Big smile on his face. And I'm like, what did I do in this moment? Face to face with this guy's Bobby. So I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? I thought you were getting loaded in. Oh no, I just jumped for a shower. And that was it. That was it. I was fucking the end of that whole intense confrontation. And the whole day was just there was a wee bit about him. It was like you get these bands like Leeds was a riot to get in. It was a proper maze. You know what I mean? But Cannibal Corpse's dressing room was up above the refectory, and you look out the window, you can see where Stylus is. You get in a flight of stairs, you walk in a straight line, you come in at the back. Could not be more simple. This guy decorated the whole building with fucking arrows. Cannibal Corpse showers, Cannibal Corpse catering, Cannibal Corpse. Every fucking corner of the venue was just. You couldn't even. You still it never took you anywhere. You ended up in the car park, and I mean, because that's just with that venue done. But you're like, you're just taking this too far, mate. Chasing me for what's that fucking terrible band? Black Veil Brides. Black Veil Brides. They were supposed to be playing in Leeds somewhere. And it's like, oh, friends of Black Veil Brides are here. Can I get another 10 triple A's? And just, it was like that the whole day, just full on. But when I just think about me trying to go and me going to look for a tour manager to find he's fucking absolutely stark naked, rubbing the towel in his back. Oh, what a
that's good.
boy. What a
That is
boy.
good. I thought you were going to chin him at one point there.
Well, at that point, I know it's just something about me spoken to. I just it gets my back up. I mean, like I don't do that to other folk. And listen, you can have a disagreement, you can still be a bit respectful. Screaming at people is just like, aye, it takes me a wee while to. As Paul says, I've got a really, really long fuse and then a really, really short one. And I think he got to the point that we got to really, really. I talked myself into like going for a fight until I realised he was naked. I was like, I'll just pass this one.
Have you got one more tour manager experience to tell us about?
What did they? What else? More recently, to be fair, our artist liaison, we've got a person per stage. It's a different setup to like Sarah's there full time. She's dealing with all the advancing, so when they come in, she's really on the ball with it. Our guys come in and do the absolute best and a brilliant job, but they come in on the day, so the information they're getting is like they'll be advanced. That this is the bands that are going to be on your stage, the times that are going to be on the stage. But after that, they're kind of coming in. They're finding their feet on the day, and they're good at it. They've done it for a long time. They're just pleasant people who know where they're supposed to be when they're supposed to be there. So, fortunately, they've done such a good job in more recent years, and there's less of the stuff that like happened in 2007 and 2014. That even in 2022, it was Paul Bearer. They showed up on his last day of tour, and they told us that another one of this is advancing issues. We'll sell our own merch. We don't want to give you the 20%. But by the time they showed up, whoever was either selling their merch or the tour manager to say, I don't know what happened. They just, we were told that we were selling it. And I don't like that either. People, I think that it's such a fucking emotive topic, the whole selling of merch and promoters stealing fucking merch money, that when people come in, it's almost like, you sell it like telling us, like, listen, if we get £200, £250 for this, it's like the fucking merch sales £150. The tents, 6 grand. The table was £14. It's like even with all combined, when you're doing 10, 12 bands, you might walk away. I might walk away on the other side like 2.5, £3 grand. Still doesn't cover half the tent. So it's a bit like it's an option, it's a service that's there because some bands just won't have a choice. And I don't want a bunch of unmanned merch. I don't want Damnation to look like it's an unprofessional setting either. But
Yeah.
sometimes it's just the attitude. I just well, you as if I've won a watch. I'm gonna be like, oh yes, I can take £200 for this fucking band. It's like I'd rather you just all sold your own merch and left me alone. But for whatever happened to this one, it was no, they don't want to do it. And by the end of the day, I think it wasn't handled very well, wasn't counted in, wasn't counted whatever. And at the end of the day, the stock wasn't right. There was a few hoodies missing. And at that point, it's like, oh well, you was these hoodies. And I'm like, well, it's not my responsibility counting them. Once you haven't counted them in, and you know at that point you haven't done it, there's no point with the counters on the other side because no one knows what went in that direction. You know what I
No.
mean? No one knows if it was 40 hoodies or if it was 35 hoodies. So you're just telling us a number now. You could have lost them in transit for the flight the night before. They could have fucking dropped out your van. You could have written. So, aye, that's another one of like both the advancing and a tour manager fucking just taking the piss a wee bit. A more recent example.
I like this. If it feels like there should be some sort of Gav fly on the wall documentary following you around Damnation.
Do you know? Do you know? Somebody said like so. Somebody posted a t-shirt and it was "Trap is shite," and it was the film Trap. It says "Trap is shite," and it started getting shared a bit because of my film review. And then somebody was laughing, and said, "Oh, I should listen to Gav. It was fucking terrible. I wasted 2 hours of my life." And then somebody said, "Did you hear him kicking off about breakfast?" And I'm like, "That was just me talking. that is just me talking." I'm like, "There's not going to be a segment of me kicking off. It's just
Gav
this is
booting off, mate. That's the segment.
the Gav booting off." So, aye, that is tour managers, and
Yeah.
basically, and what I would say is they're essential. They play, they can make your day so easy, or they can make it so difficult. And the best way to approach them, I feel, is like with respect, but with a firm tone. That this is still my event. You know what I mean? It's like we have advanced this. We're being professional. Everything that's there. You get sometimes that tour manager for Tourists when he wrote his afterwards, like Damnation was the worst organised show that we ever played. To me and Paul, like, yeah, you went out there. At this time, we said you got there. You played on the instrument, the equipment that we said would be there. You came off at the time that we said you should come off. The sound was great. The lights were great. You had a great crowd. If that was the worst event that you ever played, mate, what a fucking career you guys have had.
Yeah.
Because I swear to God, when it was like, there's just some bitch in the morning, it's probably some backstage bullshit that he's just dragged into and said, oh, this is the worst thing we've ever done. Like, it wasn't the worst. I mean, I've probably seen you in other events that you played worse shows. So, aye, you need to stand your ground. You absolutely
Yeah.
can't be taken. You can't be taken for a ride, but get them on side if at all possible because they can make your life so much easier. And also they're doing a job like ultimately whatever that bat was. That's to save them getting back and doing it to a probably egomaniac singer or some drummer who's fucking wasted, telling them that oh well, why don't you go and get the ginger shots? You know what I mean? It's like you always need to keep that in mind as well. They're having that argument. I mean, one good example of how you can win at an event like ours. Like the We Lost the Sea tour manager, a guy, Scottish guy called Chris, who didn't work with rock or metal bands. He came down and it was like he started everyone like, "Hi Gav, everything's going great. Would you?" And it was like when any rather just come in and come out and said, "Would you get me ginger shots, or would you go and get me an R10 tills?" Or would like he
Yeah.
just started with that very pleasant, like almost get your guard down, everything's great, hope you're having a good day. And then the exact same request, the exact same requirement, but just done it in a very polite, placid way. And see with that, you feel there's something there's human nature thing to just try and help people that are treating you like that. So
Yeah.
aye, that's my experience of tour managers and how to tackle them. What about yourself?
Well,
Is that you on board with that? Are you like it doesn't matter to me anymore? Fucking somebody else's job.
yeah, I mean, mostly I'm telling Sarah to keep him happy, but somehow sift between the stupid requests and the and the reasonable requests. And it's important for us that the feedback to the booking agents is good, and
Yes,
that's the thing for me. But we're going to get some tour managers on, aren't we? So I think there's a few people that we've got in mind to get
yeah.
on.
I
So
mean, I
we'll
mean,
let them have their right of reply as well.
I mean, of course, and that is a good thing about it as well because again, I felt like it was resection. I've been probably starting to talk like we were the ones tour managing, and this is what the role is. But that was really just to try and describe before our experience of working with them, what it is they do. So I don't be listening to this a tour manager like you two. You have no idea what you're talking about because we kind of admit that to be honest because neither is our tour managers.
No, quite. So yeah, let's get one on soon after once Damnation's out of the way, and we can dig into it a bit more. The one thing about tour managers is they have the best stories
They do
because
that. Have the best
they've
stories.
just, I mean, if the stories are happening on tour, aren't they?
Well,
There's
they see
just mad
everything. They
shit. Yeah.
literally see it half the time. They're putting it the fires. They're
Well,
the ones.
they're often the sober ones, aren't they? Because they're the only adult in the room, so you see the chaos.
Yeah.
John Helps from Maybe Sure's got some amazing stories. So's Begley, and your mate Luke sounds
Yeah,
like he's got some good ones.
you talk about like when he starts telling you about what's going on in Drake's arenas and that, you're like, for fuck's sake, this is that is a different world for how we operate. But yes, I enjoyed that though. I enjoyed some of the reminiscing about some of my times with tour managers. They're definitely characters. And
Yeah,
talking of characters, Mr. Lou's Brews. What's new
mate.
with the big man? He was talking to me today. He was chasing me for invoices today, but other than that, he's been a bit quiet. He's made a promise that the Damnation sauce will be restocked for Damnation, which I kind of
Yes, that's
almost a
great news.
given. I mean, I'd be a lot of complaints that day if the Damnation sauce is not there at the festival. So he'll be hard to work at that. Haven't heard anything else about the two promoters, one sauce. So maybe needs a wee bit of teamwork for you, James. How you getting on with your sauces?
Yeah, I keep expecting he's just going to suddenly appear with it. Is that what he's going to do? I think that's what he's going to do. I am getting on good. I have the Kirsty's Metal Hands is now dead. It's gone. I've finished it.
Yeah.
So I've opened this thing called Mammoth Juice, I think it's called, and it's fucking lively, proper. So you a little bit on your fajitas or whatever, or in your like Thai curry, sets you
There's no
lively.
because there's no real. Do you know you get like the your normal peri your generic peri brands or any hot sauce brand and you get like the spiceometer and you get it.
Yeah,
Lou doesn't bother with that. He just wants you
no,
to get from the name of the like anal vomit that's definitely going to be fucking a
yeah,
spicy effort, but it costs his metal hands might be so. You really need to that first sandwich or the first fajita needs to be. You need to tread carefully.
yeah. You basically find out first time, don't you? But yeah, he's good. So
So
yeah, let us know about the box set, Lou.
let
That
us
would be
know
good.
about the box set. Lou's Brews. Dot yeah, I just literally shut down there, didn't I?
Right. You don't feel stress through work, apparently. So you
No,
need to
listen.
get down the tennis court. That's what you
I
need
need to
to do.
get myself in the tennis court. Louisbrews.co.uk. Pod 15% off your orders. I haven't spoken to him about how the orders are going lately, but I want him to tell me that they've been flying because everybody's loving the guy. So I get yourself along here and support him. And to round off our podcast for the week, on the record, James, what have you got for us?
I've gone for Future of the Left and the song Small Bones, Small Bodies. For anyone who doesn't know, Future of the Left are an offshoot, or McCluskey, the band McCluskey broke up. They became two of them made Future to the Left, and in my opinion, this is controversial, hot take. Future to the Left is a far superior band to McCluskey. I love McCluskey. Future to the Left are one of my favorite bands ever. Their first record, called Curses from 2007, is right up there in my albums of all time. I fucking love it. They're one of the only rock bands that makes me actually want to like dance and like shake my
Did you see
booty
Curses?
to
Curses?
Curses. Yeah. Um, the song's called Small Bones, Small Bodies. It's fucking brilliant. The whole album is amazing. I love this band. They've just announced a couple of shows, so they are doing live shows again, which is pretty
Oh, they did
exciting.
this band as well shortly
Yeah,
afterwards that.
yeah, they've got, it's just life, I think. And yeah, everyone's busy and they've had kids and stuff, but yeah. So anyone, yeah, probably lots of people know the name and don't know the band. Go and listen to them; they're great. They're
Yeah,
like a not. It's like a, I don't know. They it's a noise rock band, but they're quite left field. But it's really catchy, but really odd as well. Um,
okay, you're right, because that's a good description. Like a lot of people know the name, but not the band. 'Cause that's exactly where I'm at. Like I see that in a poster, and I'm like, oh, that's that band, Future Left, but I know nothing about them and I've never heard them. So looking forward to hearing that. Our Kofi subscriber, he picked Ulcerate, The Solved Orders. I gave that a listen earlier. It's sort of gloomy black metal, like sort of Neuer spiky corpse paint and solos, but they're more drawn out grim black metal, sort of guttural vocals. Really quite enjoyed that. I'm gonna check out more of them. I think they've been announced for one of those black metal shows. Don't know if it's like Celestial Darkness or Fortress or maybe Incineration, but one of them, Cosmic Void maybe. They're definitely. I remember seeing them announced for one of them, and people being quite excited about it. So definitely a band to keep in mind of. And Dragged into Sunlight is my choice. Now, everyone's got a different definition of what they think's like the heaviest sounding music. I mean, some people think it's Electric Wizard, for some people it's Sun, for some people it's Hatebreed. They're just like there's something about whatever style that you're like, oh, that's just as heavy as you can get. As for me, he's Dragged into Sunlight. That just unrepentant fucking battery of, because there's almost like so many genres in there. It's that black metal, industrial grind, the death, and it just the horror samples and fucking serial killers and that. I mean, Hatred for Mankind is an absolute fucking legendary album. It's an assault on the senses, and they're going to play it full live at Damnation, which is going to be quite something. And I haven't picked a song yet. I will, but I've been a wee bit rushed about, and I was like, I wasn't sure. Every time I listen to it, I like that one. Oh no, I like that one better. So it will
mate,
be there. Don't you worry about it. I
don't
don't want
make Tom have
commentary.
to open Spotify before he does the fucking title.
Oh, I'm
Fucking
sorry,
hell.
mate. So go. You go with Boiled Angels, mate. You go with Boiled Angel. I will pick something for that. So I ulcerate Dragged into Sunlight if you like it. Heavy and grim and a wee bit vile and a bit of future left. If you like something a wee bit more upbeat and makes you want to dance.
Good. Lovely.
James, I'm a wee back to you, pal. All right.
Well done, mate.
Same time
See you
next
next
week. See
week.
you then.